Hi, all. I'm Dan Smigrod, founder of the We Get Around Network Forum. Today is Thursday, November 15th, 2018, and you're watching WGAN-TV live at 5. Our show today, Zillow 3D Home for Newbies. We're going to do a demo and discussion. Awesome show. Really super excited to have our two guests on from Zillow. Steve Lake. Steve, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Dan.
Part of the photography team, and Mitch Dawson, part of the product development team. Mitch, good to see you.
Good to see you, Dan.
What we're going to cover today, first, we're going to get a demo of Zillow 3D Home as the buyer of a house would see it. Second, we're going to get a demo of how to create that 3D tour using the Zillow 3D Home app paired with a Ricoh Theta V. We're then going to see how that content gets uploaded to Zillow, then how it gets delivered back to you as the photographer, so that you can then use that content, not only of how it gets distributed on Zillow, but so that you can use it on your own website and use it on your client's website. And then from there, we'll start asking some big picture questions to go back into a little bit more about what is Zillow, what is Zillow 3D Home, where has it been tested, where is it being tested now, what's the plan for a rollout in terms of across the United States, and then get into some more questions and discussion. And if you don't have a Ricoh Theta V, stay tuned towards the end of the program, and I'll talk to you about how you can borrow one at no charge. Mitch, you're on the product development side. How about giving us a demo? What does a Zillow 3D Home look like? Zillow 3D Home tour look like?
Sure. Let me go ahead and share what one of these looks like and present. Give me just a second here. You all see my screen? Great. So we were recently in San Diego, and here you can see on Zillow, this is a house just outside of San Diego, and we were down there and we were shooting 3D Home, and so this is one of the houses we were in, and you can see here, if you're familiar with Zillow at all, you can see the pictures of the property. What you might notice is that there's a link here in these photos to a 3D home. So I'll go ahead and jump into that. And you can see here, this is not your standard picture, because what we can really do is rotate around in 360. And if you're already familiar with 3D home, you'll notice that you can look down and you can look up now, because what we're actually doing, as Dan mentioned, we're now using the Ricoh Theta V, and we are able to take 360 images of these properties, and I'll show you what that looks like, but this is the output here. Now these are all full HDR captures, so you can see here there's some reflection off of a pool that's outside. That's really hard to deal with, but there is inside and outside light, and all these windows are open. So we're getting really good exposures. If I go and I look at something that would be outside, for example, here's the backyard of this house, and you can see we're able to get beautiful outdoor exposures, still in full 360 degrees. And this camera is actually in direct sunlight. And so we're still able to do all of this even in direct sunlight. Or if I wanted to come over here, even in the shade underneath this portal, we're still getting these great exposures. So this is what this looks like, and this is what viewer experience would be for anybody who's shopping for a home on Zillow that has 3D on it.
And then take us through what else we see on the screen, because I would call that, do you call it a highlights reel, a slideshow?
Yeah, great. So this is to help. What you see here is actually these arrows, and you saw me navigating on some of those already. This will, so when you follow these arrows, it's to help help inform the layout of how these things all relate to each other, how all these panoramas relate. Down here at the bottom, we have what we call the thumbnail strip, and this lets you just jump to any room you want directly without necessarily moving around a lot. So you could say, hey, I'm really interested in because the master bathroom. So if I want to jump straight into the master bathroom, you can come here and you can look at that directly.
Can I make my offer on this house now? Is it still available?
It is, I think.
Bathroom.
So,
if you can afford it, Dan.
Yeah, this is pretty nice place. San Diego's got great weather, so we really enjoyed looking at some of the homes down there. And then I also want to call out here, this house actually has a second floor also. And you can see if you were in the backyard, you might have seen these stairs coming up. We actually show you that this is on the second floor. And so you can see, oh, hey, from that pool down there, what's really in here is they don't call them mother-in-laws in San Diego, they call them granny flats, which, maybe some grannies would be offended, but you can see this is the upstairs here in this granny flat. Now, again, sunlight coming in, and we still get these great exposures. So that's what we have here.
That's awesome. And if anything else on showing the 3D tour view, maybe before you move on, even about shooting, how you do the shoot, do you want to point out where the camera was in some of these places, perhaps, and why?
Yeah. So in this case, you can actually see. So right now, I'm in a view where we actually let you look all the way up and all the way down. And this is, I'll show you the physical camera in just a minute. But this camera is actually sitting on a tripod. This is a little monopod here. This is about a $25 tripod. The legs are pretty close to each other because you can't see them in the picture here. When we're actually making some changes so that you don't need to look all the way down, because there's actually not a lot of value in looking straight down. But the way that this is set up is you have this camera sitting on a tripod. Now the camera can't see itself unless you're in, now we try to avoid this, but I actually intentionally include this here. You can see in the mirror, this is the rig that we're on. There's the Theta V here at the top.
So Rico Theta V.
That's correct. It's this little guy here. I'll show you that in a minute. But that's sitting on a tripod, and that's how we're doing the shots. Now, when you're creating, you don't want to be in the shot. Notice there's no humans in any of these shots. And I'll talk to you about how all that works too, because with this camera, it shoots 360 degrees all around you. You can't hide from the camera and be next to it. There's nowhere to hide. So I'll talk about how that works too.
So do the 360s need to be in eyesight to connect from one to the next, or not necessary?
Not necessarily.
If I'm going from the granny suite into the bathroom, I don't need line of sight to go from there into the bathroom. I don't know, what do you call your navigational instructions, that little arrow?
So here, this house should have an arrow right here. We're using this house for demo purposes right now. I actually don't have an arrow here because I was going to show you how to add an arrow on that.
Great. So presently we're actually stuck unless we use the thumbnails at the bottom.
That's right.
We can't use the arrow to get inside. So that's good. Yeah, we'll see how you add that arrow that's presently missing.
Right. And it's important to note that as a photographer, as the capturer of a 3D home, we try to make it really easy such that you don't need to think about how these things line up. You don't need to have your camera where you have your camera positioned when you go to your next location. those two areas, that you don't need line of sight between those two.
Okay, sounds great. How about Mitch taking us off of the screen share and move into the camera and how you're doing your shooting?
Sure. So what I'll show you first, I'll go ahead and show you the app in a second, but this is the Ricoh here. If you're not familiar with it, it has a 180-degree lens on this side and a 180-degree lens on this side. And that's how you're getting the full 360 captures.
And I want to point out, this is a Ricoh Theta V, and while there are other generations of the Ricoh, I'm presuming the other generations, earlier generations, don't work with the Zillow Home 3D app.
That's correct as of right now, yes.
As of right now. So if you're thinking about getting a Ricoh, make sure you get a Ricoh Theta V if you want to be able to pair it to make it easy, fast, and simple with Zillow 3D Home using the Zillow 3D Home app.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So let me go ahead and share my phone here. So this is the Zillow 3D Home app, and I have my.
Excuse me. This is just an iOS app today, correct?
That's correct.
Android coming?
Potentially.
Okay. All right. So today, an iOS app. It's called, in the Apple iTunes store, it's called Apple 3D Home.
Zillow 3D Home.
Excuse me. Zillow 3D Homes.
That's right.
Great.
So if you just go to the App Store and search for Zillow 3D or even 3D Home, it'll be in the list there. So this is just running on my iPhone here, but all of you can see the screen. I'm going to hold this into view while I'm using the app, so you can see how the two are working in tandem with each other. So for the Ricoh, first it obviously needs to be powered on. You can see the light indicators here. And in the app, you'll notice this in the top right here, there's a little Ricoh Theta icon, and right now it's pulsing red. So this camera has Wi-Fi in it. So the way we talk to it from the app is to this emits its own Wi-Fi signal. We can talk to it directly. Now, right now, it's probably going to be hard to see on the stream, but there's a little blue indicator here that says whether or not anything is connected to the camera. So what we'll do in the app, and if I tap this, it'll say, hey, the 360 camera's disconnected. And if I tap this create button down here, it says, hey, we can't connect to the camera right now. Help me connect. Now, the name of this network that it's putting out is what's mentioned here. What we actually did was try to look for devices near you, and then we're going to try to help connect you in the app. You can also connect to it just like you would connect to any Wi-Fi network by going into settings on the phone. But as you can see, this light here on the device is now solid, and in the app, we tell you you're connected. When you look up here now, we have a little green connection, and the button at the bottom turned into create with 360 camera. So we can see that our 360 camera is connected here. So if I go into create with 360 camera, we're first going to ask you, we're first going to ask you about the address of the house that you're at. For the purposes of the demo, I'll skip this here, but if you're working with an agent or you're on your own, if you're filming a property, we give you the opportunity to put an address here, and it gets associated with that address. When I show you how the editing tools look, you'll see that a 3D home can be associated with a real home, and that way it stays with the home. So if you're moving between multiple people, you can always access it. I'll skip that for now. And now it's going to ask us what rooms we want to go through. And we give you guidance also. You can see at the top here, choose where to start. The front entrance is best. For the purposes of a video stream, I'm not walking around a house, but I'll go ahead and choose front door. Now what you're seeing here is this is me. I'm sitting here on my laptop. You can see the phone can see what the camera sees. Now, if I set the camera down, I'm just going to set it down behind my laptop here. And you can't see where I'm touching on the screen, but I'm moving this around. So I can look around, and this is a live preview of what that camera can see. If I spin around, you can see this crazy guy hiding behind his laptop, but I'm obviously in the frame. So we would hide ourselves. And then at the bottom here is a capture button. And you can see there's some instructions there also. So with this capture button, I'll hit it. And you hear that noise is telling you that's coming from the camera. The camera just said the two beeps were the HDR exposure. So the first was the low light and the highlight exposure, and then it blended it, it stitched it, we fetched it onto the phone, and here you can see I can do a live preview of what this is going to look like instantly right here in full resolution because we fetched it. Now you can see I'm in a small conference room here, but even with variable lighting situations, I can see the clouds outside because we did a good full HDR exposure. And that's actually already uploaded. So what you would do now, as part of going through, is you would take the camera, you would hit add, and we say, choose the next location. Now we do tell you, try to ensure it has a direct line of sight, as you mentioned, Dan, line of sight, but it's not required. So it says try, it doesn't say you must have. In this case, the room I'm in is slightly bigger than a closet, so I'm gonna choose a closet. You would walk around with this camera, and I'm gonna move over here real quick.
Is there a front?
There is no front and no back. So you could consider the front the side with the indicators on it, the power button, the camera button. But since it is a 360-degree lens, there's technically no front and back. And when it comes to the tour, no matter where the camera was facing when you took the shot, you can always select what angle is most interesting. And part of what Zillow does is try to pick that most interesting angle for you.
So the platform is actually doing some thinking about what is the most interesting view in that shot. So for example, if behind you was a white wall and in front of you was that beautiful view of the bay,
That's right.
Regardless of where the camera, regardless of which direction the camera was facing, it still might tease out the most interesting view is the bay, not the wall, as
That's
the
right.
default, the default first setting. And that said, the photographer can still override if they were not happy with the default view, for example, for that thumbnail.
That's right.
Okay.
Yep. And so you can, everything you just said is true. And then also when you're taking a shot, you don't want to, if I turn around here, okay, like I don't have the camera on a tripod right now. It's sitting on a little stool here, but I'm really close to this wall. So there's going to be a big part of this shot that's in the wall. If I were shooting this room, I would put the camera on a tripod in the middle. But obviously in order to give you a video stream, I can't walk all around, but this gives you an idea. I'll go ahead and take a second shot here just so you can see what happens. You can see we're fetching the image right now. That means we're actually retrieving it over Wi-Fi from the camera. We're waiting to upload, and we've uploaded it 100%, and now we have it.
If I'm shooting on location and I don't have a Wi-Fi, but I have my 4G, is it optional about whether it's going to upload or not?
Yeah, in fact, I will go in the settings here, and I'll show you there's uploads here. So we give you lots of options. Well, by lots, I mean all three. You can upload over Wi-Fi only. You can upload over Wi-Fi only. There's two types of captures in the app, which is why there's those two buttons down there. I can touch on that in a minute. If you're doing 360 tours, you can do cellular, or say Wi-Fi and cellular for everything. So the phone I'm using right now does have an LTE connection. And so because my Wi-Fi is being used to talk to the camera, I can't use my Wi-Fi to also upload. Now the Theta V, the Ricoh Theta V does have an option that lets you hop Wi-Fi. I'm not going to cover that today because it has a bit more complicated setup. But if you want to get really savvy with Wi-Fi, that is an option. Otherwise, let's say I didn't have a cellular connection in this phone, or I was on an iPad, because maybe you're shooting with an iPad. You can take all of these. You can take the entire shoot. We store everything locally on the device. And then when you do get to Wi-Fi, we'll upload everything. If you have a cellular connection, we'll upload in real time.
And is it uploading to the Zillow cloud from the Ricoh Theta V, or is it transferring to the iPhone and then uploading from the iPhone?
Everything goes through the iPhone.
So does the Ricoh Theta V, let's say I'm shooting on location, there's no Wi-Fi, I don't want to use my cellular, I get back to the office, I have Wi-Fi, do both devices need to be on, or just the iPhone?
Just the iPhone. Assuming you've received all the images from the camera, only the iPhone needs to be on, and then we'll talk to the cloud service.
And I know that it's transferred successfully because I can see it on your iPhone. If I couldn't see it, then it hadn't transferred.
That's right. So this one's here. I can try to show you. I can do, we'll just do another.
This is good. Let's keep moving. So you got two images. I imagine you want to hit done with home and take us to the next step.
Yep. So I can hit done with home. Now here's where, if you're working with an agent, they may ask that you don't publish automatically. Publish automatically, you can see this little switch here it's off because I didn't actually give it an address, so there's nothing to publish to. If you did want to publish automatically, it's going to ask me for an address, but since this is a demo, we're not going to put this on the house. I'll just go ahead and I'll hit finish.
And publish automatically, I imagine, still means that the real estate agent that has the listing still needs to approve it, or does it literally just automatically go to Zillow's listing?
It will go fully live, such that anyone in the world can see it.
Okay, cool.
And the agent has control of that if they want to. But we do give you the full power from the device if you want to get through all the barriers and go all the way.
Okay, great. Josh is trying to get a hold of you.
Yeah, Josh is sending the email. So, well, I wanted a phone that I took tours here. So look, I just got an email. That's the advantage, is that I just got an email. It says my 3D home is ready.
Terrific.
And you can see in the app, it actually went from the current tours to the completed tours. Completed tours now, you can see these are some that I did. These are published. And then we have some examples down here.
Okay, so that was super simple. We got it uploaded to the cloud. Now, what is it that I get back, and what is it that I can do with it? And then how do I share it beyond Zillow?
Right. So, so I'll go ahead and show you the end results here. So we'll take you into this tour. And so this is the first shot I took. And then there was the closet. And this is the second shot I took. And you can see we're looking out that window. And you can see me, I was sitting back over there when we took this shot.
Can I tap in excuse me, Mitch, can I type my own name? I didn't want to call it closet. I wanted to call it something else.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. Now you can do that while you're capturing, or you can do it afterwards.
Okay, great.
We'll let you do both.
Okay.
So in this case, you see I never gave it an address, so it's asking for an address. But if I wanted to, if I just wanted to now share this with an agent, I can go ahead and show you what that looks like.
Do you want to take us back to the property that was finished, that you gave us a tour at the beginning, and maybe show us how you add the navigation so that we can exit the bathroom?
Yeah, sure. let's go ahead and do that. I'll switch back to my laptop here.
Okay. Steve, thanks for your patience. Got a lot of questions for you too.
I'm letting Mitch steal the show here.
Everybody wants to see the shiny parts, but then Steve will give us all the other
I think it's really important to have context, and I think what you're doing, Mitch, is giving us the context of, you know, this is what it looks like from a person who's trying to buy a house, to how that's shot, to what the post-production looks like, and then I think it'll be great context for Steve. Okay, so we're back to, so do you have a name for this? Is this the Zillow content?
Yeah, so if you can see here, we call this the My 3D Home dashboard. So it's as simple as zillow.com/my3dhomes. You can also get to that. Now you see I've taken a lot of tours, but on this account, but you can get to that. I'm signed in with Zillow. So you can see all of that information. These are all unpublished tours. Obviously, these aren't even all people's houses. But of course, I work on the app, so I test lots of things. But this is the one I was showing you in San Diego. You can see a couple things here. One, I can jump into the tour just to see what it looks like. Or I can go back and it will not take me to where I want to go. So let me get back there real quick. So let's go from here. So here you'll notice that you can share it, and you can take, you can embed. You notice we have two types of links here. Embed would be if you had your own website and you wanted to have an iframe. That's what the embed link is for. The other link, you can copy this. Anyone can view it. And you'll notice that this home is published, but I can click this button on any of these tours to receive links to these things and view them. And you also have some things in here like delete. But if I go ahead and I go into edit, you'll notice I get some additional things in here like add arrow. So if I want to come up to the second floor, now notice we didn't get an arrow into this living room. So if I wanted to, and I know that inside there is the granny flat.
Excuse me, Mitch, are the arrows automatically generated by Zillow? Is there that it's estimating, guessing because it knows line of sight and it sees the next one? Or no, there's no arrows that are placed at all?
So there's two pieces to that. There's the automatic component using a bunch of computer vision techniques. We will attempt to build everything as automatic as we can. Now,
so in that case, if I do want to have the Zillow platform, the machine learning, artificial intelligence, whatever it is, really construct the tour for me with the least amount of post, then I may want to have perhaps more 360 shots than I need, and then presumably there's a way to hide some shots if I felt like I overshot it. It still let the Zillow automatically generate the navigation.
That's right. So you can remove panoramas that you shot that you don't need, because in reality, you were there and now you're not there, and so it's always hard. It's hard to go back. But if you have extra content, you can always remove that content, but it's hard to add content later.
Okay. Can we see how to add an arrow for that stair landing going into the granny suite?
Sure. And to finish on your previous question, so there is machine learning and there is computer vision work going into automatically generating those arrows, but there is also a human component. So let's say you typed the name of a room and you misspelled something because you just didn't notice. we go through and there's human eyes on these tours, and we will, anything that the machine learning misses, we'll attempt to add, and then we'll do, we'll make sure that things look good too. So if I want to add an arrow here, you'll notice I get this editing UI, and I know the granny flat. I know the granny flat is this way. And so I can point this arrow wherever I need to in this 360. So in this case, I would point it here, and I would add the arrow, and then I would come up here and I would hit save. And so now you can see that arrow is there, and I can edit the arrow if I wanted to, or I can navigate to it. And now we're here in the granny flat, and that's where we came from.
And if I have 2 stories, 2 floors, such as we do in this house, must I make sure that I shoot indicating these 360 panoramas are on floor 1 and these panoramas are on floor 2? Or can that be done in this back end?
Yeah, we can edit that also. So when you're shooting, you can say like, oh, oops, I went upstairs and I didn't add this panorama on another floor. You can change the floors in the app, and you can change them here also.
Okay. Is there anything else in post that you can do here?
The other things you can do in post are notably you can't edit the images themselves, but you can edit how the tour lays out.
So if I want to have I want to see the pool, let's say I wanted to see the pool as the thumbnail, not the entrance, how would you set that?
So there are, for the whole tour?
No, back to the where we're standing.
Uh-huh.
Go back, if you would, to the thumbnail where you were setting the granny flat entrance.
Okay. You mean down here? Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. But I want the view on that thumbnail to be the pool. Can I do that?
So you want to link down to here to the pool one?
No. I wanted the thumbnail to see the pool rather than to see the dark entrance.
I see what you're saying.
Can I set the thumbnail?
Today you cannot set the thumbnail. Zillow can set the thumbnail right now, and that's something we would do as part of the machine learning process and the human part of the process. We can change that today, and we're always, of course, working on these things. So should we want to change thumbnail images at any point and expose that broadly into this editor, that's something we could do also.
Okay. Without deleting, can you show me where the delete button is? Maybe you showed that and I missed that.
The delete button, I need to make sure I'm in the right version of the viewer that will let me do this. Yeah, so here.
Okay. I'm not going to ask you to delete it, but now we can see that there's a delete button there, and that's where I can change the label in the floor.
So if this needed to be on another floor, we could change it here. If you said first panorama of this floor, that lets you kind of organize the panoramas. That was another thing you can do, is say, hey, this really should be the first one on this floor. And then you can save and you can delete.
Okay, also. Great. A super demo. Unless you had something else, I was going to move on to some questions for Steve.
Oh, let's get Steve talking.
Okay.
He's
all
looking
right.
bored there.
Steve, where has Zillow 3D Home been tested? Where is it being tested now? And what's the plan for a rollout across the United States?
Yeah, so right now we're in a handful of markets. The most recent market that we've launched in, as Mitch was alluding to, is San Diego. We are also in, and Mitch, jump in here if I'm missing any, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Dallas, Orlando, Houston, Atlanta, and Denver. I believe I got them all.
And Oklahoma City.
I was so close.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Did I hear that?
Yep, that sounds right. And then as far as from a national perspective, so first of all, this would be a US only release, at least for now, because that is where Zillow is located. Right now we don't have a hard date for that. We're getting the feedback from this newest release with the Rico Theta V. We're also making some evaluations to the value proposition, but once we have kind of all the feedback figured out there, that's when we would start setting the timelines as far as a nationwide launch.
Okay, so today, Thursday, November 15th, 2018, presently in 9 markets, with ambitions to have it roll out across the United States, but not yet ready to say when that's going to happen.
That is correct, yes.
If I'm not in one of those 9 markets, can I be testing? Can I be using it today, even if I can't publish to Zillow?
Yeah, I believe, and Mitch, jump in here if I'm wrong, but I believe the answer to that is yes, you can be testing it today, but you cannot be publishing it or associating it with addresses.
Will it generate a link in iframe today?
It will not create an iframe today, I don't believe, but you should be able to kind of view it and play with it within the My 3D Homes dashboard.
You can still share also.
Oh, you can share. Okay.
Yeah.
So I can generate that link and I can generate that iframe.
Mm-hmm.
So in theory, I could use the Zillow 3D Homes app paired with the Rico Theta V and publish it to realtor.com.
In theory, you could take that URL link and put it into the virtual tour link. Yes.
Okay. And that's Mitch.
Yeah. So we let you. So if you want it to show up on Zillow, and as I demoed, it'll get additional treatment around showing a 3D home, since that's where most people are shopping for homes, is on Zillow. If you want it on Zillow, it needs to be in one of the markets we're open in. Otherwise, the app is fully available on the App Store. Theta V can be purchased and you can get share links.
Because I think this is actually huge news. And I think in the big picture, it's really awesome that a photographer could use this workflow and actually create a 3D tour and then be able to share that 3D tour either as an embed with the iframe or to give a link to a real estate agent that wants to use it, knowing that the primary use case is going to be Zillow, but you're not tied to just Zillow.
Yeah, and kind of some of the feedback that we've heard in the past, both for 3D Home and for products like Video Walkthrough that we've done in the past, is that especially for use cases like using on agent's personal website or the broker website, as well as being able to share to social media, those are use cases that are really interesting to agents. So we want to make sure to enable that. Now we're going to obviously create a great experience on our Zillow listings.
Yeah.
To make sure that we're showcasing this stuff front and center, because we know that that's what home shoppers want to see. But we will make that available elsewhere as well.
Okay, that's absolutely, that is big news, and I think that's really super. And that may mean that someone is actually researching buying a Matterport camera who wants to create 3D tours could simply say, oh, well, I'll just get the Zillow 3D Homes app. I'll get a Rico Theta V, and I'm in business of creating 3D tours, and it's not costing me anything to process it or host it or share it or have anybody view it.
Yeah, how we kind of think about it, and Dan, I think you and I may have talked about this before, is the idea of democratizing this type of content, whereas right now I think a lot of agents, photographers, the industry in general kind of think about 3D as something that is for lifestyles of the rich and famous. We wanted to create a solution that could help make this kind of the standard across all real estate listings, regardless of location, regardless of listing price, right? So that's why we're attempting to build a solution that it is free for all the processing and all of that. It's easy to capture. Mitch could tell you as well, right? 15 minutes or so for a 3,000 square foot home. Once you've figured out how to do this, it's nice and simple to do, and there's no kind of additional cost outside from the cost of buying the camera.
I think this is huge news for our community, and gosh, I mean, that I'm almost in disbelief, and I think it's Zillow's thinking really big in terms of the democratization of 3D tours to enable. Again, I think it's so important, just to reiterate, Zillow 3D Homes app paired with a Rico Theta V means that anyone, particularly our We Get Around network community, can create, process, view, publish, share at no cost other than that initial investment in the camera. And that's crazy exciting. That's big news. And then I think to your point, Steve, about how long it takes, if you can race around a house and shoot 360s, and after you do probably about 10 houses, you got your workflow down pat. This is the ability to, time is money, and a photographer, if they can do more houses in a day, can make more money, and that can be a challenge with some other platforms. If it takes an hour every 1,000 square feet, maybe to do Matterport. Some will shoot faster than that. And in shooting that same 1,000 square feet in maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah, if that.
15 minutes at the most is huge. Mitch, I just want to double check with you. I know we've been talking about Rico Theta V. I imagine it's because of the SDK, the API that comes with that Rico Theta V, which is not in the S in the previous models. Are there other 360 one-click cameras that have SDKs and APIs that you're aware of?
Yeah. So the 360 market is really starting to come into its own, I'd say. The Zillow 3D Home is not necessarily tied just to the Theta V. The initial offering of 360 camera support is the Theta V, because the story around how well connected that camera is and the APIs, as you mentioned, it's a really strong story. There are other 360 cameras on the market that have similar capabilities, but they're different in just enough ways that adding them is not automatic. So there's work involved to increase the number of 360 cameras that are supported.
So before I ask you about the supported cameras, I'm just really curious about which ones have APIs and SDKs. Some of the popular cameras for real estate photographers, Insta360 One.
Yep. That one has support. So there's a distinction also between whether or not they have Wi-Fi support or just Bluetooth support, or you need the physical cable connected in order to get the images off those cameras.
Do you know off the top of your mind if Insta360 One or Insta360 One X just announced, started shipping? If that Insta360 One X has API, SDK, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cable, whatever it is.
So they do have Wi-Fi, and whether or not the API is actually called OSC, if you want to get super technical. It's called Open Spherical Camera API. Lots of different manufacturers have different levels of support for the Open Spherical Camera API.
MiSphere?
What's that?
The MiSphere, Xiaomi MiSphere, MiSphere.
That one I'm not familiar with.
Okay. Also goes by the name Mad Venture.
Okay, not familiar with that camera. There's the LG 360. There's the Samsung 360. There's the Garmin Verb, and there's also the Rilo camera. Many of those, the first three I mentioned, have some level of OSC support. Now, OSC is also versioned. So there is different levels of support even within OSC. but those first three all have some level of OSC and Wi-Fi capability.
And any plans for Zillow 3D Home to be integrated with these other OSC cameras?
Potentially, not as of today.
Okay, so I won't put words in their mouth, but I think it's fair to say that if there are if there are 360 cameras that are OSC, remind me what that stands for.
Open spherical camera.
I'm super excited, really geeking out today. Open Spherical Camera API SDK. I think it's fair to say that that Zillow is going to be building out to it. We don't have to ask them for confirmation, but I would say if you're planning to buy a 360 camera, figure out if it's OCA, figure out what version it's on, and maybe we can figure out what version that of OSC that Zillow is building out to, and that might be just a hint of what might be likely is the next in line and the next in line. But to me, that's super exciting because Zillow essentially will not be it'll be camera agnostic, provided that these 360 cameras have this OSC support. Won't ask you any more questions on that, Mitch, but I'm just super excited to hear that.
It's super exciting stuff.
It's very exciting. I mean, it seems like every month, if not every week, there's a new 360 camera, and the camera is better quality for less money, and that just means that the space only gets that much more exciting. Steve, back to you. Just talk a little bit more about why does Zillow matter? I'm a Matterport photographer. I've invested thousands and thousands of dollars in Matterport. Presumably, I can't publish my Matterport tours to Zillow. Is that correct?
Yeah.
The only 3D tours that are accepted by Zillow are the Zillow 3D Home tours.
Yeah, so that that kind of prominent placement on our listing page that Mitch showed towards the beginning of the broadcast, the only 3D tours that will be able to show up there are the ones that are captured through this system that Mitch demoed today.
Okay, so I've invested literally thousands of dollars in my Matterport camera, gear, accessories, etc. So I just want to say okay. So why should I say okay? Get over it and go create a Zillow 3D home tour.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to this idea of democratization that I talked about before, right? The Matterports, the iGuides, everyone that's kind of serving that top end of the market. That's all kind of well and good, and that's what we've found is that serves the top 5 to 10% of the market. We really want to put a solution out there that's for everybody, so that when your typical home shopper on Zillow is coming and they are looking at listings, they're seeing 3D homes. And that starts, we think, what we call a flywheel, right? So if home shoppers start seeing 3D homes on the properties that they are actually searching for, they come to expect it a little bit more and a little bit more until eventually it becomes kind of the standard that's out there, which, think about high resolution photos and how that all took off, right? And we think that's a really good thing for, home shoppers, obviously, but for the real estate photography industry in general, right? So there's not so much reliance on, you go to a shoot, you do your photos, you edit those photos, and that's it. We want to build that up so there's actually more visual content that is out there, and we think 3D is really the cornerstone of that.
Flywheel is probably a topic for a different show, but for those geeky of us who enjoy these kinds of things, what are what's on the Zillow flywheel? So maybe we'll start with the 3D tour. What does that then generate?
Well, so the idea is that the more exposure we can give for 3D tours to home shoppers, the more and more standardized those 3D tours become, right? So we're talking about a flywheel within the 3D space itself. So where, when 3D is only on, the 5% or less of homes that it's on today, especially when it's at the top end of the market. So, 98% of viewers really aren't getting exposed to it. it's not going to pick up any steam because it's not getting the exposure to the bulk of the market. So by opening up to listings of any price, we're going to get it in front of the masses. In other words, so that what we think is going to help drive traction.
And I could imagine Zillow would like to have 100% of all the traffic of people who are looking for homes. And if your platform has more 3D tours than other platforms, then perhaps people will continue to be searching for houses on Zillow rather than using a different platform where there's not as many 3D tours.
Right, absolutely. Like we think, we are very home shopper, consumer focused, and we know from talking to consumers that they want to see 3D tours. It helps them with what we call the home triage process, right? So deciding if I want to go look at a home in person or not, it has the ability to really help them make that decision. And we want as many of these home shoppers as possible to be coming to Zillow first, right? Talking to your point earlier, Dan, about why do this if you're a photographer in the first place. Zillow Group has, I think it's around 195 million unique users per month. Zillow brand on its own has 60% of the market, right? So, if you want to create a 3D tour that is getting in front of the vast majority of the market, Zillow is the place to do it.
About statistics in terms of why people want to see, how many people want to see 3D tours, why that matters, are houses selling faster as a result of it, or are photographers getting more agents to use it? There's a lot of, I don't know how to ask the question. There's a lot of statistics that probably Zillow has studied. If you don't mind, perhaps you could send me slides, sources. I would love to publish that in the We Get Around Network forum. I think even, whether you're a Matterport photographer, an iGuide photographer, an Inside Maps photographer, the key word here is 3D tours. And if Zillow's research is showing that real estate agents that use 3D tours earn more money, get more listing presentations, win more listings, get bigger listings, and I don't know what your research has, but whatever that research is, I think it would help the entire ecosystem. And I would love to be able to share the Zillow research in the We Get Around Network forum.
Yeah, we do a thing every year called the Consumer Trends Report here at Zillow, and I can share a link of that to you, Dan. And that has some of that. We're looking into a lot more data points to help prove that point out as well. What I do know is every year, we see more and more consumers that are looking for 3D homes, and that trend is especially amplified with millennials, right, who are starting to comprise a larger and larger portion of the home buying market. And if you think about who those home shoppers are, right, they are not looking at, super high-end luxury listings because, they don't have the same earning level as other customers. So that kind of goes back to this whole democratization idea. We really want to get this content in front of all customers, but especially millennials.
Yeah, it's awesome. I look forward to receiving the link or the research. I know that Mitch is actually recharging his battery, and I think he'll find a charger and be back in a second. I just wanted to make sure I didn't get a chance to ask Mitch about, was there a blurring capability if we did have people in the shot? That's something.
We're working on doing something like that. Specifically, I know that, if you, and I think Mitch just mentioned this before, when you look down, you're able to see the tripod or the monopod or whatever you're using. We're working on potentially doing some blurring capabilities or something to edit that out. As far as if somebody is in the frame itself, we're looking into various solutions to handle that.
Okay, cool. I think that's going to be a question that's going to come up. I mean, we all like to shoot spaces without people and pets and stuff, but
yeah, I mean,
sometimes you even you miss that there's pictures on the desk. family pictures, and after the fact want to be able to blur out the family pictures or the password that's attached to the to the computer that we didn't catch, whatever that might be.
Yep.
I'll certainly make a little pitch for the photographers. I'd still like to have that nadir spot at the bottom to cover the tripod. I'd love for that
Yep.
to be a marketing opportunity for a photographer to be able to put in their logo, their website, and their company name.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll pass that on to Mitch if he doesn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
Was there anything else kind of on on the how, the what, the why that you wanted to cover in terms of Zillow? In fact, I should just elevate it one more step. You know, if you're not publishing a 3D tour on Zillow, what are you missing out? I mean, just if you can reiterate maybe a little bit more on the scale and the scope of the role that Zillow plays in the house hunting process.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's two real things. One is the visibility, right? Zillow is, like I said, 60% of the market, and when you throw in Trulia, that number is even bigger, right? So if you and your agent really want to get the most visibility and the most use out of your 3D tour, you want to have it front and center on Zillow. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is, thinking about it from a photographer's point of view, if you're able to charge, call it $200 for I'm making that number up, for a Matterport or an iGuide or whatever it is for a luxury listing, and you're able to do that maybe 10% of the time for your listings, this is an opportunity, we think, for the other 90%, right? And you may not be able to charge that same high price point, but you can charge a lower amount of time. It takes you way less time to do. So we really actually view this as a way for photographers to grow their business and boost their bottom line a little bit by adding on value to the package that they're already serving their agents.
Awesome. I'm going to wrap it up. There's two things I want to cover, Steve. One, I'm going to come back to the how to get a free Ricoh Theta V, how to borrow one from the We Get Around network. But I think I just wanted to add a little bit of commentary here for the We Get Around network forum community. 12,000 plus photographers visit our site every month. And I would say a good majority of them are Matterport photographers, or thinking about Matterport, or thinking about what kind of other alternatives. And whether you've invested, I want to speak to our audiences, whether you've invested, thousands of dollars in a Matterport camera, an iPad, a tripod, the related gear and accessories, and you feel like, why doesn't Zillow accept Matterport 3D tours? I'm going to say, that's the rules of the game. Whatever reason that Zillow has decided not to accept Matterport, get over it. Zillow is the 800-pound gorilla in the space for listings. And if you need to shoot Matterport and reshoot the space as a Zillow as a Zillow 3D home tour, then do it. And then you may find that you have clients where you don't even need to, if you're shooting a 200,000 square foot, a $200,000 listing, $150,000 listing, the margin just may not be in it to shoot Matterport anyway. And if in 15 minutes you can go shoot a $150,000 house and still figure out how to make money, I'm probably not saying this well, but if you think about real estate listings, there's some small percent are $5 million homes, a little bit more that are $1 million homes, a little bit more that are $500,000 homes. But the majority of homes that are sold in America at this bottom of this pyramid are under $200,000. So, if you think about, well, I want to be a photographer and shoot the most amount of properties, you need to target the masses, and that's the base where they're least likely to be able to afford a Matterport 3D tour. So, I think we've heard from Steve and Mitch, it doesn't cost anything other than the camera to do the upload, processing, hosting, viewing, sharing. You get a link. You can use the link on any platform. You get iframes, so you can put it anywhere. So this is really me saying to you is you got to shift your mind a little bit to say whether I'm doing Matterport and Zillow 3D Home, or I'm doing Inside Maps in 3D Home. You need to shoot 3D Home regardless. And that's just the rules of engagement. You can't use a different solution to publish a 3D tour to Zillow. And I presume you'll do better in, we didn't talk much about it, but I presume if you publish that 3D tour to Zillow, you probably move up in Zillow search one way or the other because your better digital assets are being shown off. Am I making a leap there, Steve?
There's a lot of stuff that goes into our algorithm based on how we rank homes, but one of them certainly is if they have a 3D home attached to it.
So shoot 3D homes. And, think of it today it's just a competitive advantage for you. If you're not in one of the 9 markets, if you're in San Diego, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Dallas, Houston, Atlanta, Denver, Oklahoma, and Orlando, the 9 markets where Zillow presently is, then by all means, you should be out shooting today and offering that, put a price on it and start offering your clients, that solution. Have that as a competitive advantage to differentiate yourself as a Matterport photographer, because you also offer Zillow 3D homes. And if you're not in one of those 9 markets, you should be using the app, the platform anyway, because you can be using the 3D tours to publish to any other platform. And frankly, once Zillow opens up your market in the United States, you'll be golden because you already have expertise in doing this. So I mentioned about borrowing a Ricoh Theta V. The We Get Around network, if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, go to the We Get Around Network forum.com. And as of January 1, 2019, the We Get Around network has a 360 camera loaner program, 360 camera and actually gear as well. And any WGAN basic, standard, or premium member in our community can borrow a Ricoh Theta V camera. So check it out. The details are in the forum. I know we're losing Steve's room, his conference room, and Mitch as well. But I will say, I know we're losing you. So sorry, Steve. So I'll just say just one last thing. We'll publish in the We Get Around Network forum not only the research that Steve has to share from Zillow, but we'll also give you the Zillow.com link to get to the 3D home. We'll put it, yes. If you want to listen to it quickly, it's Zillow.com/marketing/3D-home. We'll put that in the We Get Around Network forum to make it easy for you to find the exact page to go to. You can also go to the Apple iTunes App Store, download the Zillow 3D Homes app, and you're good as gold. So Steve, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you, Dan.
And thanks to Mitch. I think his laptop ran out of juice, but please extend our thanks to him as well, Steve. You've been watching WGAN-TV live at 5. Our program today, Zillow 3D Home for Newbies, a demo and discussion with Steve Lake from the Zillow photography team, and also Mitch Dawson from the Zillow product 3D Home development team. We've recorded today's show. We'll publish it in the We Get Around Network forum. Again, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, WeGetAroundNetworkForum.com. Steve, good to see you. Good to see you again. And happy Thanksgiving and Happy New Year. Look forward to talking to you in the new year.
All right. Thanks, Dan.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Bye-bye.
Bye.